Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the worst reviews ever. It's your boy Sophisticated Jerk, and we got KC Fred in here. We're holding it down today. You know, it's summertime, so everybody gonna be taking their breaks and stuff. But you know, I always got my bro with me, so I'm good. we gonna cook it up.
Yes,
But I
sir.
see you bringing a Chiefs jersey back out early, huh?
Hey, we getting close, man. People almost ready to
Okay.
start buying tickets. Come on now, let's go.
So y'all gonna redeem yourselves this year?
Well, it was only one game. Everybody
I
keeps
feel
forgetting
you.
that
That's
we were
facts.
there the whole way. So nobody's kicked us out. We just gonna find another Superdome to go to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
So
But all right, we'll go ahead. We'll jump into the review. So today, man, we're gonna review the action film, sci-fi movie Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. So let me go ahead and pull up the slide. So Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga is a 2024 post-apocalyptic action film directed and produced by Greg Miller, who wrote the screenplay with Nico Latharis. Hope I said that right. But all right, the plot on this is after being snatched from the green place of many mothers, while the tyrants Dementus and Immortan Joe fight over power and control, the young Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home. All right. Directed by George Miller, produced by Doug Mitchell and George Miller. So the cast for this movie, Anna Toy-Jailer as Furiosa, Ayla Brown as child and teen Furiosa, because they have many versions in the movie and stuff. And Charlize Theron was the older version. Chris Hemsworth as Dementus. I didn't even realize that was him, man. They did a good job with the makeup.
yes, definitely.
So Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack, Greg Shestov as the History Man, Lakey Hulme as Immortan Joe, John Howard as the People Eater, and Angus Sampson as can't even see that the organic mechanic. So yeah, I was like, damn. But all right, let me go ahead, man. You know how we do it. We're gonna pull up the trailer real quick, and then we're gonna jump into the the breakdown, the ratings. So give me 1 second. All right, here we go.
Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
I'm Furiosa!
The darkest of angels. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
shit. But all right, man. So we got the rating scale up. I'll go ahead. I'll go first this time, man.
All right.
I got to give this an 8.2, man.
Wow.
This is an 8.2. So I got it in the excellent territory, man.
Wow.
I was definitely feeling this one.
Wow.
But all right, Casey, Fred, what's your rating?
I gave it a lucky 7.
Okay. All right.
I gave it a lucky 7.
So Casey, Fred got it right on between good and very good, and I got it up in the excellent territory. So I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
No, I went first last time, so I let my brother go ahead and take it. Because you really the outlier. You way up there. You above what the critics even said. So
okay. So man, I gave it an 8.2 because for me, man, I think this was like a combination. It had great action. I think the imagery, like in the wasteland, and I think it was shot in Australia, like in a desert scene. But I think the camera work, like I said, the backdrop, the imagery mixed in with the plot and the storyline. There was a ton of like weird shit going on in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the way that he blended it together, man, I thought it was just tough because, it's just like, we see a lot of movies about the wasteland and sometimes it seems like we heading in that direction.
Right.
So I like how it just had that futuristic feel, but it really wasn't too futuristic. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, hey, they had like nice cars. It just showed the primal nature of like, humans when like, the civilization kind of breaks down. It's like, okay, everybody try to be a tyrant,
Right.
Everybody gets back to the, even though it's in the future, they go back to the prehistoric ways of stuff. Like the dude had like all the multiple wives and, people are just like, kind of fighting over the necessities. So
Right.
I guess like in our time, we have so much abundance of like resources. You turn on your faucet, man, you got water running. So it's kind of cool to see how they, people are just like, when they turn on the water, they like up there with the buckets. They like, oh, shit,
Right.
So how people are just controlling, the basics. Like I said, it got back to the necessities and stuff. Like, so even the gas town and stuff is like, really, people are just like fighting over that type of stuff that we take for granted. So I just love how they tie that into the storyline. But like I said, how the people are all covered in the white, they're willing to sacrifice. So even the one guy, or Morton Joe, he's kind of put himself on that, like almost on a godlike level. And he got them people like almost on a cult type thing. So
right.
then the other guy, he's kind of trying to do the same dynamic. He got the like weird little cape on. So, but it just showed the primal nature, man. So I like how they did it, but they did it in a kind of weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like the typical like a zombie apocalypse and stuff. So I like how they just did it where it's like with just people, but they were just on some cult stuff. It was like, hey, we got our squad over here. We got our squad over here. Then, you had the hero that kind of played both sides because of they tied into both. So yeah, I thought it was a good like plot all the way through with the imagery. So yeah, like I said, I really liked it and stuff. So the scenes that stuck out was definitely, I like the beginning sequence, how that kind of start off with, if it was her mom or something like that, but how she kind of had that like resentment, that bitterness towards, that one guy. So it was just like, and he kind of knew it too. Like it's gonna catch up to you one day because you just did her dirty and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't really particular have like one scene because, like I said, man, it was just like action all the way through, and in a way, it just like carried on. It was like seamless because typically there'd be like disconnects in the storyline.
Right.
Where it's just like, oh, okay, man, I gotta go to sleep. But this one, it was just like, damn, I had to go back and catch stuff. I'm like, man, because some parts was just weird. You're focusing on like the people. Definitely. And I was like, all right, man, I gotta catch that again. So man, it definitely left you intrigued and held on. So if I would change anything to this movie, I wouldn't change anything. And I actually feel kind of bad because this is actually the prequel. So the other Mad Max is like the continuation of this. And it kind of all ties in. So I was like, damn, I should have waited one more week so y'all can watch them both together. But I would definitely recommend this to people. But hey, before I kick it over to you, Casey Fred, let me get Wally's rating. So Wally, I gave it an 8.2. So I'm in the excellent territory. Casey Fred gave it a 7. And Wally, what's your rating?
7.5.
All right.
Got it in very good territory. Okay. But let me kick it over to Fred, Casey Fred, real quick.
Yeah. So
rating.
Huh?
Right again.
Hey, I gave it a lucky 7. I think a lot of it has to do with because honestly, I've seen all of them, and so I remember.
Oh, you saw the old school ones?
All the old school ones, all the way up. So I saw the one with the original Mad Max where you actually had Mel Gibson. And this George Miller, I'm telling you, this dude reminds me of, you know how some of the best rappers out there, their first album was the best, and then all of a sudden they have a few hits along the way, and then they try to come back with some more hits or whatever, but it's still never exactly the same as the original. That's how it was with, to me, George Miller, who's done this odyssey of this movie. This was a really good movie. Was it his best? I don't think so. And so that's where I have to leave it at a 7. And of course, 1982, he does the Road Warriors. This is where all this action comes into play. This is where you really realize where all this fighting scenes and all the badass vehicles come together and who's who and what's what. And it's all about kill or be killed. And so you're loving the action, especially me. I mean, I had nachos and hey, it was awesome. I mean, it was just like you was caught up. You didn't want to go to the bathroom. You didn't want to all of a sudden tie your shoe. You didn't want to all of a sudden accept any phone calls because it was that good. And then, like I said, you go into 1985, where all of a sudden he brings in Tina Turner, and that's a Thunderdome and everything. And that's when it starts fanning off. They usually, most movies, once they get to a third apart or whatever, next thing you know, it just doesn't seem like it's top tier like it normally does. So then you fast forward 30 years later, and they try to relive it because you got a whole nother generation. And then that's when you're introduced to not only this girl, but also Charlene Theron, who plays an excellent role, which this is the movie that they do years later that you call the prequel or whatever, the movie that's supposed to be before. But I mean, honestly, I think it was good. I think it was a lot of character building. I think the plot and the storyline was great. I enjoyed how they divided up in 5 parts, so you never got lost and you realized that this young lady was growing up all along the way, and things were happening to her that you would not believe, that you would not expect. And for her to be able to grow up with the maturity, but at the same time, I can honestly say hatred and revenge will carry you a long way. And for whatever reason, it carried this girl all the way until the very end. And she said with her last breath, I'm going to kill the person that killed my mom. And if I don't do anything else, I'm going to figure out a way to be able to stay alive. And third thing, make it back home. And so, and that was the whole thing. And so I thought it was really awesome. You could definitely tell, like I said, the guy that produced it, George Miller, he did an excellent job. You saw the different phases of her and being kidnapped and then realizing that her mom will do anything as well as give up her life to be able to save and protect her baby. And she, of course, she ended up losing it and stuff. And so then she's kidnapped and she's carried on. And so you can tell one part, here she is at this level, innocent. The next part, all of a sudden, now she's got to be able to start learning different skills and be able to all of a sudden learn the different languages and be able to who she can trust, who she can't trust. And the whole time while this story is going on over here, she's in what they call land war. I mean, where you, like you said earlier, Jerk, that you have these two villains on both sides that they're just greedy as all get out, and they want more than what they have. And they're willing to be able to conquer and to be able to kill and do whatever it takes. And so some of the scenes that really stuck out was just her coming of age, her learning her different crafts, her learning to be skillful, her learning to all of a sudden find out that she's really good at what she does, and she's crafty. And I thought it was really cool. She ended up learning how to drive vehicles, which I thought was awesome. She learned how to be able to use weapons. She learned how to all of a sudden be able to kill, and she didn't have a problem killing because the number one person she wanted to kill was the person that all of a sudden made sure her mom died. And I think that was Dementus, is what they call him, the leader of the big gang. And Thor, he had a prosthetic nose and had all the makeup. I mean, it took you a while, especially the way his voice, to realize this is Thor, this is Chris Hemsworth, but he did an excellent job. And then, of course, Immortal Joe, he had the machine and all this other stuff like that. You had other characters as well. But like you said, it did give that cult feel because the way people were dedicated, the bikers on one side was dedicated to Dementus, and then all these white-haired people were covered in, I don't know what you call that, paint or whatever, and was willing to give up their lives for Immortal Joe and for their little clan and stuff like that. And so everybody wanted territory, everybody wanted a piece of the pie. And so while this war is going on, Furiosa is growing up right in the midst of them. And like I said, the three things that really just stuck out in my mind was that revenge, hate mindset that she's going to make the person pay that killed her mom. The very thing that made her feel like home. Sometimes it's not just a place. Sometimes it's who you're with, and that made all the difference in her eyes. And so I would say when that little light got taken out, man, there was times in the movie where she didn't even talk, and it was just like people didn't even think she could talk. But that was all in her favor because she had such revenge and such hatred that was inside of her, and I felt like that's what kept her alive. And then, like I said, she finally meets a guy. I'm still trying to remember what his name was. The guy that drove the truck. You know who I'm talking about, Jerk?
Damn, I'm trying to
think.
think.
He had the black, and that's what made her. I felt like those two, like,
they never really spoken of the name.
Huh?
I don't think so. They ever really spoken of his name. I think
Praetorian Jack, was that his name?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, Jack. We just say Jack. He was the one that all of a sudden said, "Hey, I need you, and I can train you, and I'll help you reach your goal." Which she flat out said, "Hey, I'm trying to go home." And if y'all remember correctly, she had a secret little map or whatever that was on her tattoo, somehow that was on her wrist, that would kind of tell her through the stars or whatever of how to be able to get back home. And so, you know, now she's coming of age. I don't even know the way they were connected and that bond, whatever. I don't know if it was a brother sister. They really are a, you know, boyfriend girlfriend. They never really even got that deep because it was too much killing and too much fighting or whatever. But you knew that they was on the same side. And eventually he ends up dying. And all of a sudden, because they both got caught, they were trying to escape and try to all of a sudden get back to her home. And he was supposed to be trying to help her. And they had this big plan. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out like the way they thought. And he ends up dying. And I never forget the most traumatic part was when she is chained up with one of her arms and she literally cuts off her arm so that way she could escape and get away. And then you see her a time later where she has a machine on her arm or whatever that I believe she made, if I remember correctly. And all of a sudden she came back. Huh?
She made it, yeah.
Yeah, and then she comes back for her ultimate revenge to come back and get the exact guy that had all of a sudden said to kill her mom, and that was Dementus, which we all know is Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor. And so, like I said, the movie was definitely good. Like I said, I want to be able to give it higher, but when I compare it to the other movies, that's a little hard for me to do. Would I change anything? No, I don't think I would change it. Only for the simple fact everything was in line. They had all 5 areas, and all 5 areas was specific. You couldn't change any of that. All that order had to be so that way you could see the coming of age, where her thinking was, where she was at, the development of who she was, not only in skill but also of age, and just of her, just like I said, that hatred, that vengeance that was deep burning within her, that I really felt there's so many times she could have died, but that was what kept burning inside of her, and just knowing that, hey, if I stay alive long enough, I can get my revenge and I can make it back home. I think that's what really helped her. Would I recommend this movie to anyone? I would definitely say yes, because it's definitely worth watching. And like I said, I think a lot of people would be captured by this. This was definitely what they call an odyssey. It's definitely not anything that you would would see or recognize in today's films. But if you look back in the past and you would look at the origin of how this movie came about, you would realize that George Miller's been around for a long time, and that guy knows what action films are all about and how to produce them. So it was very well put together, and I give my hat to him, and I definitely would recommend it. So it's all yours, Wally.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, hold on. Let me get on cam. So I can actually do this. All right.
Clean shave, Wally.
Yeah, pretty good. All right, so yeah, so I gave my rating 7.5. So yeah, the whole movie, you know, I mean, I won't say too much of the storyline, but the plot, pretty solid, right? Yeah, I mean, I love the story. One thing I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, this movie don't teach you nothing. A, make sure your kids don't freaking go far without adult supervision. That's technically her mother dying is her fault.
Pretty much, yeah.
Her mother dying is pretty much her fault. Oh man, oh that's sad. Oh man, that's just sad. But you know, look, the transformation, the development for sure, it was on high. You can definitely tell, like, even in this more apocalyptic aftermath world zone that they're in, you can definitely tell like there was a very much of a split between men and women in a lot of ways. But even when women were under the men, at least there were certain one of them that were like protected, and the others were like diminished as far as in the undergrounds, because you can tell by the time they end up going to like that one zone, when they went to the like the more not the bikers, but the more truck heavy zones, there were more underground people than anything else, even though they were like living with all those maggots and stuff. But yeah, but the movie was definitely good. You know, there was definitely what are those words? What is the words when you talk about it? Not more so as battle zone, but there was like different area plots in there, like different area zones that they hold. Surprisingly enough, it looks like the women's area zone was way more quote unquote beneficial, because apparently no one didn't know that they're even there, let alone to even examine them, other than the bikers that got sort of close because they were in that forest area. But surprisingly enough, they never get found, they never get seen ever. But as far as them going to the, you know, to the wastelands area zones where they have that battle zone, at least between 3 different parts of it. And I think that the added part was like that, the extensionary part that they had. So yeah, it was very interesting for sure. But pretty much it's just like chess, right? Just in a more, aftermatic, apocalyptic field, right? Because that's really what it was when you look at this movie. It's like both sides sort of playing chess, trying to take over the next side's, advantages within their zones, and trying to take up for control. One side ended up losing, the other side being smarter, and all that stuff. Other than that, I mean, definitely there was a bunch of like the moral of the story is about loss, revenge, redemption. You know, don't think that you can't trust nobody, because one thing's for sure, and I'm about to get canceled a little bit for this. One thing's for sure for all y'all women that watch this movie, look here. Don't say all men are bad, because there was at least that one brother that Casey Fred talked about that literally saved that little girl. Because literally, at the time when she was trying to rob him for the truck, he was like, throw your ass out of the damn thing and drive up. He drove up, she's right there. She sort of had a broken leg. You could just tell just like how the way her leg looked like. And then he comes back and he's like, hey, look, I'm gonna make you an offer. Look, you're better than most of these knuckleheads over here that can be like pretty much my top next soldier. So look, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna train you, and when it's all said and done, you can go wherever you want to go. I won't even ask, I'm not even gonna look for you. And eventually that started that trusting bond and that factor of just putting you right there in minds and just working together to be able to get that goal. And he pretty much had her set up for the goal, because when she was looking at him crazy, like, wait a minute, why am I not driving the rig? And I was like, because this is about to be your time. You're gonna get this you're gonna get this car, you're gonna get those 2 motorbikes, and get the fuck out of here. And because he was pretty much gonna get her out of there, because pretty much by the time they went back, the setup was right there. She literally could have just ran and go, and he just dealt with his death at that point. She came back for them, helped him out. They almost made it out.
Yeah.
You know, that just sucks. But one thing's for sure, like her that played the actress that played her at the little and even the older, they did solid work. Definitely I think it's Chris Pratt or something like that, if that much. He did his role, aka Mr. Thor. He did his role real nice. He was a little bit sus with that damn teddy bear though. I would say that. I would say that's all I would say. What else was there? What else other roles was there? Definitely whoever the guy that was like the leader of the other side of the clan, with their people being like, you know, white painted, whatever. Like, you know, those characters were like pretty nice in their performance and their looks, because they were definitely solid. What else? I think after that, yeah, I mean, pretty much the whole damn show was pretty much the girl, because she went through a lot. And I ain't gonna lie, yeah, that of her cutting that arm off without even no one seeing her cutting it off, that was gruesome. I'm glad they didn't. I'm sort of glad they didn't show that, because that was gruesome.
Yeah, fact.
Oh, that was so gruesome. But I'm surprised, like, out of everyone riding, you would think someone would have seen her, like, you know, pull the escape. Nope, no one didn't see it. I'm like, how did this work? I don't know when I see her. Okay, you know, y'all horrible. I don't know if y'all don't got no eyes, y'all don't got no ears. I'm like, that's impossible to tell me. You didn't see her cut her own arm off, let alone to steal a bike. And then to even be lucky enough to be rescued, only to be dropped in the pits down in the lower bottoms of these mofos, only to find way back out. When those old folks talking about, oh, stay right here, you'll be protected. Bull crap, you over here with freaking, you over there with them damn ass little leeches and shit. Hell no, I ain't going down there. What the hell I look like? She goes up there, tells them, hey, look here. You know who hey, look at me. Hey, let's go. Like, what the hell are you doing down there? Don't worry about that. Give me up. Took over everything that right back.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Like, all that was a really good movie overall. As far as this goes, what I like, if I was the director of the producer of the movie, would I change anything or do anything differently? Honestly, no. I think this was pretty much done the way it's supposed to be done. There really ain't nothing. I mean, the only one thing I could say is like the dude surviving. But let's be honest here. The way they had him mowing him around, and then the dogs around him, knowing that they probably were biting on him in every which way, he wasn't going to survive. He just wasn't. So,
yeah.
It just wasn't a thing. It just wasn't a thing. So yeah, really, there was nothing I could really change in this movie at all. Overall, like, I think everything that was done needed to be done. Right. And as far as what I recommend to anyone, the answer is yes.
All right. So we're going back to the rating. Anybody gonna change their rating score? I'm keeping mine the same at 8.2. Definitely still got in the excellent territory. Casey, Fred, how about you? You gonna go up, down? You staying the same?
Nah, I'm gonna leave it the same. Like I said, I think I do highly recommend everyone to see all the movies, and then you would definitely be able to understand where I'm coming from.
I want to see that old school shit. Talk about some Mel
But
Gibson and Tina Turner.
You would understand. Well, that was 85. I'm talking about the original from 79 and 82. Those were the two hits that actually put them on the map. The reason why you even get a 30-year-old movie to be able to all of a sudden reproduce for younger generations. That's all I'm trying to say. So at the point of what I'm saying is everything has an origin and has a beginning. And so we understand her story, but before it was even her, there was a Mad Max, and that's where all of a sudden he got his fame and fortune from. So, like I said, when you put all of them together, this is just a new generation, and so another female hero that all of a sudden people can look at. So it's really cool, and I totally agree with Wally. It's coming from a time where all of a sudden women were only used for one thing, and that was to produce. Other than that, you didn't see them out there doing anything. And so for her to be the warrior that she was to grow up and to be, I mean, one scene that really caught me was she all of a sudden literally cut off her hair, bro. So that way all of a sudden when the dude, and she knew he was going to try to come in there and rape her, grabbed the hair, and then boom, she was gone. Took off, and then all of a sudden figured out a way to be able to hide. And honestly, if she would have let go of that pipe or whatever that she was holding on to, that would have been her death. That literally would have been.
No, it wasn't even a pipe. Actually, she had a chain on. Remember, she still had the chains. That's how she was able to hold on. The chains were helping her hold on to the rig. So so she was able to move around that time, which is why she was able to escape the way she did, which was smart.
Very smart. But at the end of the day, I mean, to cut off your hair, I mean, she was cleaner than Wally was right now. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have no hair.
Wally looking fresh down there. Shout out to Wally.
Hey.
But all right, Wally, let me go to Wally with the rating. So Wally, you gonna go up, down? You staying the same at 7 point? We already got Fred's hating his reminiscent rating that he gave.
7.5. Yeah, I'm staying at 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can honestly see this be like an 8, this would have to be like much more than this a little bit. I would have to say, in a sense of because understanding where this all started and how it ended, for this to be like an all around 8, you'd have to circle back home,
right?
And
you got to watch the 2015 one because it connects a little bit, but. Yeah, I get what y'all saying because that's why I was like, damn, I should have got them to watch the other one. It kind of circles. You see how they connect. But yeah, the old school ones, I watched those too.
You said which year?
It's Mad Max. It came out 2015. So because this is the prequel, but there's the secondary part. Because at first I thought it was flip flop, and I'm like, why the hell they do it like that? And then when I watched it, I was like, oh shit.
There's an order change. Okay.
Yeah. But all right, y'all, definitely check this one out. You know, we all gave it a pretty good rating. You know, Frederick threw a little bit of the old school hate. You know, the typical. You got the older guy that's like, well, back in my day, you know, they used to rap like that and stuff. But we still love Casey, Fred. But all right, y'all, tune in. Peace out.
Peace.